In this video, we're going to do an accessibility review of the Samsung Galaxy S23. Let's do it! Hi everyone, it's Carrie on accessibility, and I talk about technology and accessibility. If you're interested in that type of video, it would be amazing if you could double tap on that subscribe button. So here is the Samsung S23. It was released February 17th, 2023, and I actually did a live unboxing if you want to check that out. I will leave it in the YouTube cards and in the description below if you want to check that out. I tested this phone over about a week and a half, and actually now I am testing the OnePlus 11, and I will be also doing a review on that as well. Before we dive into the accessibility, let's go over some quick specs first. This has a 6.1 inch display that is 2340 by 1080 pixels. It also has a triple camera setup on the back. One is a 50 megapixel main camera, there is a 10 megapixel telephoto that's 3x zoom, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. This is really relevant when you're using a lot of OCR apps and a magnifier as well. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 with 8 gigs of RAM and a 3900 milliamp battery. It has 128 gigs of storage, which is non-expandable. It comes with Android 13 with One UI 5.1. Now let's go over the design of this phone. It's pretty small. It's only a 6.1 inch screen, which a few years ago would have been big, but now that we have phones that are 6.7, 6.8 inches, this is pretty small. It has very small bezels, and the front-facing camera is a hole punch at the top middle. I picked the lavender color, and it's a very pale, kind of subtle, soft lavender, and I think it's really pretty. I really like that there is a matte back instead of like a glossy back. When that happens, it's when you initially pick up the phone, it's like, okay, which is the front? Because they both feel like the screen for a moment. The sides though have a little bit of rounding, and they are quite glossy. While the corners are rounded, the edges do have kind of a sharp corner to them, which I feel is a little easier to slip between your fingers. But most people will probably put a case on this, so that probably doesn't matter that much. Let's go over low vision accessibility on the S23. I'm really not used to having such a small phone anymore. I went from the Samsung S22 Ultra and the Pixel 7 Pro, and those both have like about a 6.7 inch screen, which is significantly larger. It's a little bit different for me to have such a small phone. Because the screen is smaller, there's a lot less canvas for all the icons and text. It has to fit in that smaller screen space, which makes things smaller. One really great thing about Samsung though is its screen zoom and font sizes can get much larger than other Android devices. If you compare the Google Pixel 7 Pro and its maximum display zoom and font size versus the S23, even though the screen is smaller, the text is still bigger. But I still prefer having that large screen, especially on the S22 Ultra, just because it can still make things larger, which, as somebody that's visually impaired, is helpful for me. Overall, the screen is really great for me. I give it a 10 out of 10. Samsung screens are some of the best out there. I think it could be the best. It's an AMOLED screen, so there's so much contrast, and it's very high quality. The resolution is great. The refresh rate I did turn down because I could not tell between 120 Hz and the regular, so to save battery life, I just turned that down. The screen is also really bright. I would say it's brighter than the Pixel 7 Pro and the OnePlus 11. Most of the time I actually keep the brightness at under 50%, and it's really bright enough for me. It's also pretty bright when you're outside. If there is a lot of sun, it's still hard for me, even if I turn the brightness all the way up to see the screen. But I don't know if they can put enough nits in any screen that can overcome that for me because of all the glare issues that I have with my vision and how it's just really hard to see, and I have to like cover up the phone and like with my hand to try to see what's on the screen. Even with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which technically can get a little bit brighter outside, it's still hard for me to see it. But the screen is really bright and vivid, and I really like the punchy colors when it comes to Samsung displays. Samsung likes to do its own thing, so it has its own brand of magnification. With Samsung magnification, there's always a blue little bubble button on the bottom right corner, and on the S22 Ultra, this button will always go on top of the keyboard and you'll have to manually move it away. But on the S23, it does move itself. That little button moves itself up so that you can still type. When you tap on that button, it will take you to lens mode. But if you tap it again, you have to find the little button for full screen for it to go back to full screen. And this is not the best design. There's also no way to get rid of this button. On Pixel, you can choose if you want magnification to be lens view, full screen, or be able to switch between the two. For Samsung, for some reason, they decided to take off that option, and it always has that blue floating button, and I guess you just have to live with it. For me, it's really not that big of a deal, but for some people, this can be really annoying. Let's move on to screen reader accessibility. For the most part, it's very screen reader accessible. It's great with TalkBack, but there are some downsides. First, and most notably, is the fact that TalkBack is not actually Google's version of TalkBack. It is Samsung's version of TalkBack, which will always be delayed. If you check in the Galaxy Store, the version number for TalkBack is actually higher than what's in the Play Store or Google's version of TalkBack, which is very, very misleading because it's actually behind. It doesn't yet have the February update that Google pushed out for TalkBack in the Play Store, and who knows when we're gonna get it. They also make it really difficult to switch to the Google version of TalkBack, and you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to do it. There's also not much support when it comes to Samsung accessibility, which is really disappointing. They have an email and a phone number, which I tried, and nope, no response, unfortunately. Like I've said before, I think Samsung really needs to work more directly with Google instead of trying to separate TalkBack and have their own version. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But one thing that really bothered me though was the fact that TalkBack would not mute itself when you call up Google Assistant, which is, I don't know if that's a TalkBack, a Samsung TalkBack problem or a Google Assistant problem, but somebody needs to fix it. Hey Google, what is the weather tomorrow in New York City?
What is the weather tomorrow in New York City? Space.
The Samsung interface is pretty accessible. I didn't have any really big issues when it came to TalkBack. What about the general accessibility? Like I've mentioned in other videos, these accessibility gesture on Samsung devices are broken. You're supposed to be able to swipe up with 2 fingers, and if you have more than one accessibility feature assigned to that gesture, you will always get a menu. That's definitely not how it's supposed to work. Here's hoping that they push out an update for that. Another thing I noticed is a few times, 2 or 3 times, my phone just randomly restarted while I was in the middle of doing something, and I don't really know what caused it. There was an update that was pushed out not too long ago, and I haven't really had that happen to me, so maybe the update took care of it. I did want to mention it though. One thing I love about the S23 is the fingerprint scanner as well as the face unlock. Face unlock is still not as good as the iPhone, but it is the best one on Android that I have tried. Definitely way better than the Google Pixel 7 Pro. Even if you're in the dark, most of the time, it can still unlock your phone the first time. just by brightening up the screen. I wish Samsung would do something like Apple where it can be pitch dark. You can have your screen curtain on and it will still be able to unlock because of the infrared or something that iPhones use. The fingerprint scanner is actually really good though, because it is a ultrasonic sensor instead of an optical one. For the Pixels and the OnePlus 11, it's optical. There'll be a bright light that flashes when it's reading your fingerprint, but this one doesn't have that, and you can also unlock it when the screen is completely off, which is pretty awesome. I just wish that the sensor was a little bit larger. Even 25% larger would be great. The speakers weren't the best, but it's pretty decent for something that's this small, 6.1 inch. I think the iPhones have better audio quality, especially with the smaller models. And the call quality was pretty good. The camera is also pretty decent, though for the S23, it does not have as good a camera as the Ultra models, because the Ultra models have 200 megapixels or near enough. And the Ultra models also have a really good telephoto lenses, things like zoom. Really appreciate something with a telephoto lens. You can't zoom in as much and still retain that quality, but for taking pictures, it's really great. The battery life was actually pretty good. I use my phone a lot. I use it for OCR like Google Lookout and Envision AI, and I also use it as a magnifier. I watch a lot of YouTube, do a lot of social media, and it definitely had enough battery for the whole day. It also has quick charging, which is great, and I would have about 20% of battery left at the end of the day, and I think that's really good for a phone considering how much I use the phone. Overall, I think I can recommend this phone as long as you know what you're getting. TalkBack is always going to be delayed on any Samsung device, unfortunately, but it's still a great device. It's nice and bright, easy to see, the fonts are great, the screen is wonderful. TalkBack does have its quirks, but overall it's a great phone. It was fast, it was snappy, the camera is good with OCR and zoom. I think it's a good one. I personally still prefer larger phones just because of the screen though. So if you are visually impaired and you use the screen a lot, and you want to get like a bigger size screen, then this might not be the one for you. And that is the S23 and its accessibility. What do you think? Leave it in the comments below. What do you think about the S23? Are you going to upgrade to it? Are you going to upgrade to a different model? Or are you still using an iPhone? The iPhone Ultra is rumored to come out soon, and I'm really hoping to get my hands on that so that I can do an accessibility review on that. If there's any other devices that you want me to review, let me know that in the comments as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. That's it for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi everyone, it's Carrie on Accessibility, and if you're interested in... What am I trying? Oh my gosh. I can't even get past the intro. Breathe. Okay. I used the wrong microphone and now I have to do it again. Okay. Let's get started. Let's shift our focus to screen reader. One really great thing though is it has a great fingerprint. The fingerprint scanner is really nice though. It's an ultraviolet and the fingerprint, no, it's